Hi everybody, it's Behruz Hamzaev, CEO of World Influencers Network. We've been here with you for a number of times. We had amazing conversation and topics to be covered by our speakers around the world. And this time, today, I'll give you Mikhail Treyvish. He's the president of OmniGrade Universal Crowdsourcing Agency. So before we jump on the topic, hello Mikhail, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you. Nice to hear you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. And I think your topic that we're going to speak about is very important. And before jumping to that, I have a traditional question. How the COVID-19 changed your working habit? And where are you right now? Which city? And how the life in that city have changed, if you can tell.
Well, I'm located in Moscow, and unfortunately, I had to cancel a lot of business trips. I planned to be in near Lisbon for Horace's general meeting in late March and early April. So I had to cancel my trip to Portugal. I had to cancel my trip to London later in April. And I start to use modern technological tools for communication to my business partners, to my friends all over the world.
I see.
And a lot of people of Moscow here in Moscow are also were forced to stay at home and to use Zoom, Skype, and other tools to communicate with their contacts, with their relatives, with their friends, with their colleagues.
Understood. Well, I think that basic question is like, it is very interesting to see that whenever you are from, the answer to this question is very similar. So it means that we are actually in a very similar situation, and we are in one ecosystem that we should think of what we're going to do next. So the topic we're going to bring up is the value of post-pandemic era and the role of crowdsourcing in their promotion. So crowdsourcing was important. It was important, but I think post-COVID, it's going to be very vital. It's going to be very important because a lot of organizations, a lot of companies are back down to their knees, and they will be needing a capex. They will be needing a capital. So, what do you think will be the added value?
Well, I completely agree that, well, crowdsourcing was important, and it's a relatively new word. This word crowdsourcing was first time mentioned by American journalist Jeff Howe in the year 2006, so a little bit more than 10 years ago. But now it's becoming more crowdsourcing, more important because the world is changing. I think that maybe in the 21st century, it's the most dramatic year. Maybe it's the most dramatic year since the World War II. And we are facing, I mean, mankind is facing with a lot of challenges, and we don't know standard recipes how to solve these challenges. And we need to find some unusual, extraordinary tools to solve these challenges, to solve the issues of this year, and maybe the issues of next year, next couple of years, next 5 years, I don't know. And so if you want to find the solution of non-standard issue, you need to make a selection from a lot of variants. And the idea of crowdsourcing is that you attract a crowd, a community consists of many people, in order to find the solution of very complicated issues. So if you have one person, you have one solution. If you have 10 people, you have 10 different solutions. If you have 100 people, you have 100 different solutions. And if you have a community consists of, or crowd consists of 100 people, you have quite a big chance that at least one solution will be genius, will be extraordinary. If you have one person, you have low chance to find extraordinary solution. If you have 100 people, you have big chance to find extraordinary solutions. So that's why I believe, because we have non-standard issues, we need non-standard tools to solve these issues. So it's the general idea why I think that crowdsourcing is becoming more and more important these days. It's one important point. Another important point is that we need some extraordinary tools to determine and manage risks. So nobody was able to predict the risk of pandemic. Amongst officials, government officials, amongst scientists. But for instance, writers of Hollywood movies, they predicted global pandemics, but because there are a lot of movies about, not about COVID-19, but about other viruses and other pandemics. So maybe if we arrange a crowd consist of not only by consist of writers of Hollywood movies, consist of doctors, consist of representatives of authorities, consist of teachers, engineers, and other people, it will be much more easy to predict hidden risks. And new era, post-pandemic era, will be the era of new tools in risk management. And maybe the third point I'd like to mention, it will be very serious changes in the global education system. Because unfortunately, a lot of professions will die after this crisis, maybe in the tourist industry, in the event industry, in a lot of other industries. But a lot of new professions will appear, and people will not be ready to go to university for master degree or for other degrees and spend 5, 6, 4 years. So we need to find another possibilities how people can become professionals in new industries, in new areas. And participating in different crowdsourcing projects could be a good tool to receive new knowledges and know-how from new industries. Because if you are the member of the community of voluntary experts around some innovative company, in few weeks or maybe in few months maximum, you are becoming a high professional in this industry, in the area of activity of this company. So there are 3 reasons why I think that crowdsourcing, or maybe it's possible to say crowd intelligence, because when people are speaking about crowdsourcing, they also mean crowdfunding, that you attract money from the crowd. So you can attract money from the crowd, or you can attract intellectual resources from the crowd. When I mentioned crowd intelligence, I mean intellectual resources. And it will be a very good tool to solve very complicated issues in different areas of economy, of science, of social relations, and so on.
Excellent. Well, I think it's a good brief, and it opens up a really good conversation point. And at this point, I think it's a time for us to understand what is the role of OmniGrade. Can you tell us about what that platform is and what you do exactly? Then thus understanding your company in that example, we can somehow bring up the example of what can be done. So what OmniGrade is about, if you can tell us about more, please.
We are trying to do 2 important things. First of all, we are trying to create the communities of supporters and voluntary experts around different interests in companies and organizations. Maybe in the future, it might be not only companies and organizations, but also cities, regions, and even countries.
What kind of companies we're talking about? What kind of companies?
Different companies. It can be companies from financial industry, from IT industry, from biotech industry, from pharmaceutical industry, different types of the companies. I can give you, in my opinion, a very good example. So if you have, for instance, famous football club, I don't know, Real Madrid or Manchester United, you have the community of supporters all over the world. We are trying to do something similar, but not for football clubs, but for commercial companies and for public organizations. unfortunately, we are not able to create such big community as Real Madrid has. Maybe we will be able to do it in the future, because unfortunately today the majority of football leagues are temporarily closed. So maybe we'll be able to create, to attract more supporters for commercial companies and for public organizations, but we are trying to do something similar. The main difference is that if you have fans or supporters of football club, they don't have any influence on the decision of the management of the football clubs. In our case, our supporters have the opportunity to tell what they're thinking about the issues and the solutions of the issues of this or that company to the leadership of this or that company and organization, and influence on the decision-making process.
No, so in certain way, in certain way, it's a more of like decentralization, like blockchain protocol, when everybody who has a proof of stake, is it some similarity?
It's a little bit similar, yes. It's a kind of decentralization, and also it helps to involve a lot of people in the decision-making process. And it's also, you can have a company located, for instance, in Tashkent. I think that you're based in Tashkent.
Yes, sir.
But you can attract people from Moscow, from, I don't know, from Mongolia, from India, from France. They can also help you to solve the issues of your company or your organization. They can be located several hundreds or even several thousands kilometers far from your company, so they are not able to come physically to your office. Yeah. But might be today the majority, the most of offices of a lot of companies in the world of the closed, so it's not a big issue, but they can participate in the process of the finding of the solutions of your issues and your challenges. So it's, and I think it's also very important today when, as I said, a lot of offices are closed. So they're not big difference between your initial team located near your office and between a large team that can be created with the help of crowdsourcing.
Is it crowdsourcing is occurring only on decision making, or is the work that needs to be done for the good of the company, or the company's day-to-day agenda is kind of delegated toward them? How the interactions are?
There are different types of crowdsourcing. I think that the most remarkable example of crowdsourcing today is Wikipedia. You know, Wikipedia is maybe the best crowdsourcing project in the world, and people are spending their time, and they also provide their knowledges about different facts from history, about different facts and about different sciences and different areas of human activities, and with the help of their time and their knowledges, they created this, the very modern encyclopedia. So you can take time from the crowd, you can take intellectual resources, you can take emotional support, which is the case in football, and you can take money. So you can take different resources from these communities of supporters. OmniGrade is specialized mostly on crowd intelligence. So we are taking intellectual resources, but there are a lot of other examples when you use time or you use other resources from the crowd.
So basically, to me, it sounds like a Kickstart or Indiegogo on steroids, right? So Indiegogo is more of, okay, I have a really good, interesting project, I have an interesting pen, and I need money to scale up and produce, and people buy in of the future. Whereas in that essence, I only ask for money, but maybe promotion methods, maybe I don't want the person say, you know what, I'm not going to buy your pen, but I will help you to with your supply chain. I'll help you with the marketing.
So the similar things in all of these examples is that you are asking for support. You can ask for support in the form of money, and in the case of Kickstarter or Indiegogo, you will receive money. Also, you can ask for support for some marketing purposes, for some technological purposes, and as I mentioned, for risk management purposes as well. So if you want maybe to make a deal and you want to analyze investment risks and credit risks, you also can use crowdsourcing.
Okay, understood. Is your ultimately your platform offering it? Is OmniGrade up and running, and is it like can be used for this purposes?
It can be used for everything except crowdfunding. So for crowdfunding, you need to go for Kickstarter, or it's also a lot of crowd lending platform. It's crowd investing platforms. We are not doing crowdfunding.
Okay.
We know a lot about crowdfunding, but it's not our specialty. Our specialty is other types of crowdsourcing. Mm-hmm. When you don't attract money, but you attract other resources from the supporters of your company or your organization.
Okay, so retrieving that and retrieving back to the problem of COVID-19, how the companies are like being affected, how they can utilize this platform in your understanding, how they can use that kind of platform, crowdsourcing, in order to move forward, how they can use it.
Well, I think that one of the important new values of post-pandemic era will be diversification, because a lot of companies suffer today from very narrow specialization of their business. For instance, if you take airline companies, so they're not able to continue their core business because the most of flights were cancelled, but the business is not diversified. So I think, it's my forecast, that after maybe few months, a lot of companies which will survive after pandemic will start to think about diversification. So we'll start to think about launching of new business projects. And they're not professionals in these new businesses. And it will be very expensive, and it will take a lot of time to recruit professionals. And for a lot of new businesses, there are no professionals at all because they're very new. Alternative solution, and perhaps the most efficient solution, is to use crowdsourcing for launching and for development of new businesses. Also, if you have existing business, but you can't continue to use it because it's mostly offline business, you can use crowdsourcing as the source of ideas and solutions for redesign of your business model. So that's why I think that crowdsourcing will have more demand starting from next even few weeks, because a lot of companies and a lot of organizations will have to rethink their strategy and their business model. And for this, they will need extraordinary solutions, and they will need imaginations and outlook from people all over the world, not only from their native city or native country. Is the first point. And the second point, that a lot of people in the world will have now a lot of free time. Some of them because unfortunately they lost their jobs. But even if they didn't lose their jobs, but they, for instance, will start to work from home, they save maybe few hours because they don't need to go to their office maybe 1 hour in the morning and go back second hour in the evening. So they will save 2 hours, and they will look for different hobbies. And crowdsourcing can be a kind of intellectual hobby. I think to me it will lead to increase of the number of supporters and voluntary experts in crowdsourcing projects. And last but not least, unfortunately, pandemic of COVID-19 maybe is not the very last challenge of human civilization. We can predict maybe some technological disasters, maybe new pandemics, because a lot of other viruses are located somewhere in the wild. Maybe not bats, but other animals will give us their viruses. And for this, we need to find some unusual and non-standard tool to predict new hidden risks. And for this, we also need a lot of people from with a great imagination.
All right. So let me ask the next question, which I think would arise in a normal situation. For instance, the companies right now, what you're talking in the situation, what you are describing, usually there is a traditional way, and you are talking about alternative. So, as a traditional way, how companies pivot their business model is that through consultants and advisors or chief strategy advisors. So they hire, Ivy League educated person who has 30 years experience and etc. How this idea can be altered, how you can change, for instance, the mindset of the companies who say, you know what, I don't need crowdsourcing when I don't know who those people are who are suggesting, maybe they're good experts, maybe they're just internet trolls, they're just, having fun, since there is no credibility on that side. Or do you have certain type of the degree that you're going to give to the, let's say, advisors who has like more authority, less authority, how I can check, do the background check, and how I know that, how I can actually trust to a bunch of unknown people on the internet to make vital decisions for my big company?
Well, it's very important and very interesting question. First of all, I'd like to point out that there are no professionals in the world in any industry who know how to work in the current situation, in the situation of global pandemic. So if you try to recruit a consultant, he or she will not be a professional for this type of issues and tasks. So there are no professionals in the world anymore. Because the situation changed very dramatically. Why do you need to trust unknown people? You don't need to trust all unknown people. Because as I tried to explain in the very beginning of our interview, if you had 100 people, you don't need to trust all 100 people. Mm-hmm. Because maybe 80 of them will propose something very stupid. I'm sorry for...
Yeah, sure.
20 of them will say something important, and 2 of them will propose something genius and something very, very efficient. I'm a mathematician because I studied maths more than 25 years ago. So it's mathematical law. Mm-hmm. If you have more people, you will have more chance.
High likely chances, yeah.
To get extraordinary solution. And it's the first argument why crowdsourcing is better than just consultant. The second argument is that crowd can participate not only in offering new solutions, but also in the process of implementation. So for instance, if you have a consultant can propose something, you can agree, but it will be a responsibility of your company to implement. If you have a crowd, participants from the crowd can also help you to implement the solution. And they will be more motivated in the final result because they will continue to support your company, not only during the first few weeks or few months, but for very, very long period of time. The same example as in the case with football fans or supporters of football clubs. If you are a supporter of Real Madrid, you're a supporter not for one season, you're a supporter forever. So in our case, in the case of crowdsourcing, it's long-term project. It's not the project for 1 year, for 2 years. It's the project for maybe 50 years. And you have permanent community of supporters. So they will learn more and more from your business. They will see how the ideas and solutions are implemented. And their input will be more important and important from every month. So you can try for a few months, you can see if it is efficient or not. And if it is efficient, you can continue to count on the support from the crowd for many, many years of development of your company.
Okay, let's talk the other side then. What is the reward strategy? Is there any reward for those people who are giving so-called like brilliant ideas, and what is the motivation for them?
Well, the motivation is very different. So a lot of crowdsourcing projects, OmniGrade is the not only operator of crowdsourcing projects in the world. Sometimes people receive special gifts from the company. Sometimes they receive money. Sometimes they can help their professional career. Well, in our case, we made a survey a few months ago before pandemic, but I think that the results now are even more actual. One of the important reasons is education. So people are receiving new professions and new knowledges. You can participate in 10 different crowdsourcing projects and get 10 new professions simultaneously. The second reason, also very important reason, that you're becoming the part of the team of the most promising projects in the world. So you can live in Uzbekistan or in Mongolia or in Sri Lanka or in Malaysia, wherever, and you can participate in the process of creation of new Google or new Apple. But fortunately or unfortunately, it works only for companies and organizations with very ambitious aims, very ambitious strategic goals. So it's possible only to attract a motivated crowd, not for every company, but for companies with ambitious and noble strategic goals. So it will work not for every company, unfortunately.
Understood. Well, actually, this sounds really good, and I think we can cover the basic topic. And I urge everybody, we're going to link down below to the website and so people can learn more. And I think right now I have to go back to our COVID situation, and that's one of my last questions would be, what will be your general recommendation, and whom you would like to recommend? So it's business members or other people. What is your recommendation post COVID-19? What should people be doing it from your perspective?
Well, my first recommendation will be not about this pandemic, but about next pandemic. Please start to think about next pandemic. We had coronavirus epidemics, not pandemic, in the year 2002, 2003. It was the first epidemic, and we received very important information from the nature that it is very serious threat from coronaviruses. But we missed this recommendation from the nature. We did nothing during these 18 years. We had a lot of time to be prepared. For sure, it is not the last pandemic. There are a lot of unknown viruses, and we need to start to prepare to new pandemic, which might be next year, which might be in next 30 years, nobody knows, but we need to think about it today. I mentioned companies. If you start to use companies, you need to hear safety advice from the crew, and these safety advices came from lessons learned from a lot of catastrophes, and we need to also to learn a lot of lessons from this, let's say, also catastrophe for mankind. So the first recommendation is about this. My second recommendation is to think about for businesses, to think about new business models, not to think only about cost cutting, about optimization of your team, but about some development. The previous crisis, which is the crisis caused by financial crisis, not by pandemic, but also it was global crisis in the year 2008 and 2009. This crisis gave for us a lot of new interesting projects, such as Uber, for instance, such as WhatsApp, and a lot of others famous global companies. So I'm absolutely sure that this crisis will give birth to a lot of very promising companies and organizations. So a lot of entrepreneurs can become the founder of these very promising companies of the future. So my second recommendation is to think about some unusual ways of development.
Excellent.
And last but not least, not forget to wash your hands. Yeah, but a lot of politicians, a lot of doctors are reminding about it, but it's really important.
Yeah, I think we learned our lesson very hard way. I think from now on, it's gonna be like a commercial grade of hand washing. So at least one thing we learned. So Mikhail, it was interesting. It was interesting. Thank you very much. I think this topic needs to be more developed and more open to the general public. Fewer people know, and I think that our audience will learn and will learn more. And definitely, I'm looking forward to talking to you and maybe in other happier occasions. And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.